So we are diving into ankle sprains, and what causes them, and how you can start to work on the issues that are going to arise from ankle sprains. So we're definitely going to highlight. So we're diving into ankle sprains, what causes them, and what you have to look out for. What are the complications with them, and really how can you start to work on and rehab your ankle sprain and just get things moving in the right direction. Now, most ankle sprains are what we call inversion ankle sprains, which is when we're here, let's say we're playing soccer, we're running, we're jumping, and we clip the edge, and the foot twists, it twists in like this. And the ligaments on the outside here, there's 3 of them, and 2 typically become involved, but these ligaments get stretched and or torn, and that tends to be the issue, this issue that we have. So if we have typically more of this, just a straight, we call inversion ankle sprain, you'll get this, we call it the calcaneofibular ligament that connects right here to the, we call this essentially your heel bone to your calcaneus. And if there's a little more of this, like if your foot kind of twists in and down, which is very, very common, you'll also get the ATFL, the anterior talofibular ligament. There is a posterior talofibular ligament. It's not nearly as common. It kind of wraps around here more to the back. But typically, you're either going to do this or you're going to have that with a little bit of that. We call it plantar flexion where the foot's down. Again, it can be stretched. There's different grades of ankle sprains. But we're just going to cover for most of these ankle sprains. What are complications you're going to see, and what are things we need to do from a physio standpoint that if you go to a physical therapist that you need to make sure that they're doing, and how do we actually rehab this and treat ankle issues. I do want to cover this really quick. There is another kind of ankle sprain. It's called the eversion, which is where your foot goes this way. It is nowhere near as common. There's deltoid ligament. It's called the deltoid ligament. It's just a very broad kind of just expanding set of ligaments. They're thicker than the ones on the outside, which is kind of a tragedy because this hands down gets sprained a lot more than the eversion ones. But it can happen as well. I'm sure there's some special complications for that one. But if you have an ankle sprain, there's things we're going to be working on, whether it's an inversion, eversion, or even a high ankle sprain, which tends to be a lot longer of a rehab process. But we're going to focus on inversion here. So one big issue with inversion ankle sprains is when you have this aggressive, just this twisting motion, we're going to lose motor control. And part of that is when they have that aggressive twisting motion, yes, you're going to sprain the ligament. Maybe you'll slightly tear it. Great thing is ligaments will heal. What doesn't heal, though, is there's nerve endings that will innervate, that go into those ligaments here, right? Let's say the ligaments, it goes from here to here and here to here. When you tear that connection, that nerve has a very hard time regrowing to the ligament. Now, it's not going to affect muscle function. It's not going to affect, the ligament has the potential to heal. It will heal. But that nerve tends to have a very hard time healing. So now we have less signal from the ligament. The ligament's a big proprioceptor. It's telling us where your ankle and foot is in space. If that nerve is torn, well, now you're getting less feedback, right, to your brain because it's not attached to the ligament as anymore or nearly as much, and we're going to have balance issues. We're going to have foot control issues. So a big thing we're working on right in the physio standpoint is we want to improve your balance. We want to do everything we can to retrain your motor control and get this function back to the foot. A big issue we find when someone sprains their ankle is you'll tend to ride instead of landing with a more flatter foot position. We tend to land a little bit on the outside, and then you pronate through. Pronation is normal. Remember, pronation is 100% normal. We need it. It's a shock absorber. But what tends to happen with ankle sprains afterwards is we'll tend to excessively ride on the outside, and we have a hard time finding our big toe. We have a hard time getting pressure down to the big toe, and we land here, we kind of smack it down, and we have a little bit more foot wobble. A lot of that is because of ankle sprains. And we can get into the weeds of why that happens, but just know, hey, we're losing motor control, because a big part of that is, hey, that nerve, we can sever that connection with that nerve and the ligament. So we're going to lose some motor control after ankle sprains. So that's a big thing. That's number one. Number two is we tend to lose mobility. We have an ankle sprain. We tend to kind of baby it, right? I remember running cross country in high school. Plenty of ankle sprains. I remember I sprained it so bad once. I needed my buddies to actually partially carry me we were running in this field that was just, it was just, there was kind of, not crops, but it just looked like a little wheat field, and there was potholes, and I just landed wrong and big cushiony shoes didn't help at all, and I just sprained the heck out of it, and I had to get carried out of there. It was not fun. But you're going to lose mobility. We tend to, hey, I'm going to, put myself in a little bit of a brace. Sometimes if you actually fracture, you can fracture this guy, you can fracture this guy over here. If you fracture, get an avulsion fracture, you're going to be in a boot. You're probably going to be in a boot for a little bit. So and it's immobile. So we tend to have joint stiffness and even calf stiffness as well, and we lose mobility, which will cause issues. When we're running, we're squatting, we need to have, we call it it's called ankle dorsiflexion, but when our foot's on the ground, the foot actually doesn't move. The tibia and the fibula actually roll over like this, and you need around 30 degrees at the minimum. Not even 20, you need around 30 degrees when you're squatting and when you're running. If we don't have this, upwards of 30, even more sometimes. So if we don't have this ankle dorsiflexion motion, we're going to compensate. So if I'm running and let's say we heel strike, we hit the ground, right? I'm coming through. This is initial contact. We call this mid stance, or my body's over it. And if I can't get this knee over toe motion, what happens is, well, I might actually collapse more. I might overly pronate at the end here. My foot actually might, right? Am I here? My foot might actually turn out. And now I'm getting a lot of excessive stretching on some of my other ligaments, my other tendons, my muscles. Maybe my knee caves in now, right? A lot of not so good things are going to happen if our ankle's tight. So improving mobility to the joint capsule, which think of it as just like a ball that surrounds that ankle joint. The calves can get stiff. When we don't move things, they tend to get stiff, and they get stiff pretty darn quick. So improving ankle mobility is a second thing. And the third thing is strength. We tend to lose strength. A big part of this is that motor control. It's very challenging to have a really strong push off when if I'm hitting the ground and my foot's a little more wobbly, it's harder to generate force into the ground. So a third, just a very simple, explanation is if we don't have the balance, we don't have the motor control, it's very challenging to transmit force through something that's on the wobbly side. So we'll tend to lose foot strength, we'll tend to lose calf and ankle strength. So getting that back is going to be paramount. So hope that made sense. Again, 3 big things we're going to work on if you have an ankle sprain. It's going to be mobility, it's going to be ankle strength, and actually the first thing was technically motor control. So motor control, mobility, and strength are 3 things I know we're going to be working on if you have sprained your ankle.